Hi everyone, it's Dr. Lasky, and this is the last of your TRP chapters. We are looking at Chapter 5, and in Chapter 5, you will be presenting your conclusions, making your evidence-based suggestions for practice, and include some closing reflections. So what you'll notice is that I start with, this is your Level 1 head again, okay? I start with an introductory paragraph, very short, basic 3 sentences, just saying what's coming. Now we have our level 2 heading. And notice that I'm going to scroll down really quickly. Notice my heading here says conclusions, evidence-based suggestions for practice, and closing reflections. And notice the sequence of the narrative. Conclusions, next steps, which should be evidence-based suggestions for practice, and closing reflections. Okay, so it follows the sequence that's outlined up here in your heading. In the conclusion, your first paragraph takes you back to the purpose. All right? And you restate the key findings from the study. And since this was a study of vulnerability, that's exactly what I focus on in this chapter. I identify one, two, three primary primary findings, and then this here adds a little bit of nuance to those findings. The evidence-based suggestions for practice come next. And here I describe what's actually happening. This is kind of, I pretended because this isn't how my dissertation ended. That we actually were taking action in our school based on the findings. So here we talk about that I had met with both district leadership and school leadership. Here were changes that were going to happen at the district leadership level. And down here we get into changes that are actually happening in the school based on the findings from my study. So any suggestions that you have for next steps or changes that can be made in your school based on your findings, that's what goes in this section here. Okay. So if you did a study on parent-teacher partnerships or parent-teacher communication, you talk about what you guys can do in your school, possibly do, based on what your data reveal. Closing reflections, this is where you talk about what you learned, what you would do differently. This is also where you can talk about sort of the larger implications of the study. So here, conducting research was frustrating. When I did my dissertation, there were times that was just, I didn't know if I was going to make it through or not. Much more difficult work than I thought it was going to be. And all of this here is literally just reflecting on things that I learned while I was doing my research. And I actually this is where you also circle back to the larger literature. And I did take this directly from my dissertation. So there's not a whole lot else I want to say here. This is your final chapter, and this is where you really get to talk about where the rubber meets the road based on the findings from your study. So thank you guys for your work, and I look forward to seeing your completed TRPs and working with you the editing process over the next couple weeks.